This
I
conference
got
will now be recorded.
a beverage delivered to me. I am now alone.
Okay,
And
so
Ben is with us.
Helen is present. Bob Hardy,
Present.
Ben Wadley.
Present. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you, and I'm glad you joined the meeting. Okay, so the first order of business is the approval of the minutes. Would you like me to show a copy? Or have you all read it?
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Bob and seconded by Jan?
Ben.
Then
By Ben, excuse me. Moved and seconded by Ben to approve the minutes from Monday night's meeting. Okay, I'm going to go down through. Is there any discussion? If so, please speak up now. Okay, not hearing.
Jim
Yes,
Cropsey.
Jim.
I note, Kathy, that you put my amendment in. I read that. The amendment to the minutes. So thank you, Kathy.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sorry,
Okay,
everyone.
then.
My children have
Go ahead, Helen.
harvested a lot of my internet, and I missed a little bit, so I'm back.
No, we're just at the approval of the minutes for the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go down through the order. We'll start with Kathy.
Aye.
Jim Cropsey,
Aye.
Jan Landry,
Aye.
John Scanlon,
Aye.
Paul Rushlow,
Aye.
Ellen Hanks,
Aye.
Bob Hardy,
aye.
Ben Wadley.
Aye.
Okay. Terrific, thank you. Now, I will put up on my screen for everyone. I am going to share my screen, and I hope you can all see it.
Yeah.
These are the proposed comments for the planning board. I intend to send that. I hope you all agree to send to the planning board, to the Tilton Select Board. And I'm including the Tilton Select Board only for the simple reason is that there was this hearing. The New Hampshire, TF Moran came and gave a presentation last Thursday to the select board, or they did so online. And actually in last night's hearing with the ZBA, on a number of occasions, Hannah Giovannucci was quoting comments from the select board. So I think that they need to be included, even though that may not be necessary. New Hampshire DES with the AOT, and that would be to Ridgely Mock, as well as the Land Use Office and TF Moran. And if we could take a look at these with each one, let's one at a time. If you want, I can go down through and read them, or we can you can go ahead and look at them and we can deal with them one at a time. I can make edits, by the way, as we go along.
Chuck and Kathy, Jim Cropsey. Item number 1, the stormwater runoff. Haven't we actually had a 500-year storm? I thought we had a 500-year storm within the last 10 years.
I personally cannot verify that, but I do know that we've had a couple of at least what I would call 100-year storms as having been declared at least that. But I do know that we have had the same issues coming up year after year with developers and engineers who say, well, most people only ask for a 50-year and you're asking for the 100. And I do believe that during the meeting that we had on Monday night, they admitted that their system would not handle a 100-year storm very well.
I agree with you, Chuck. They did say that, so.
Any
Now,
questions on number one? If not, we can go on to number two.
No, just a general comment. They seemed only fixated on the 2-year storm event.
That was weird.
It was very strange.
Chuck,
Okay, Bob?
I didn't have anything. It's John.
it- Chuck, I would ask that we also include the zoning board on the list of recipients.
Certainly, we can do that. I don't have the email addresses for each of them, but I can try to get that. If you can get that list to me, I will make sure that we individually copy them with all of these. In the meantime, I do know, and I am sure that Scott Davis will want a copy of this.
Hello.
Any other questions on item number one?
Just a point of clarification. We had another person sign on, Chuck. I don't know if you need to make that notice in the recording.
Oh, the
Yeah.
town of Tilton. That would be Tim. Thank
That's
you.
probably Tim Pearson.
Yes. Hi, Tim.
Hi. Sorry I'm late. I was coming from the office.
No problem.
No problem. So item number one, we can add to the list of people to, this would be distributed to include the zoning board. By the way, Tim, while you are there, is there a something like Tilton ZBA at tilton.nh.org so that I can send an email out that would go to all the members, or does that have to go specifically to the chair and request that it go out to others?
We don't have one yet set up for the zoning board, but the plan is to do one very soon. The board changed quite a bit in the last few weeks, so the plan is to do one. I just don't have one yet, but I would think alternatively sending something to the land use coordinator. She has a distribution list, but I will be making one for the website too.
Okay, when I send the copy of this to Leanne, I will ask that she please disseminate it to the rest of the ZBA. And to the other members of the planning board, although I will probably include, I know the addresses of at least two, which is Jane and Judy. Okay, moving on to item number two. If you would just please take a look at that and see if there's any suggested changes, omissions, corrections.
Chuck, so this would be the storm drains would be going into a some form of oil separator directly from the parking lot prior to getting into the infiltration system?
I believe that's what it says.
Okay. Yeah, that they do need that, and they don't have it.
Any questions? Any questions?
I guess the only question I have, or do we need to specify that we want this on all 4 of the detention?
Probably should be.
It should be on everything prior to getting into the infiltration system, and
So you want me to add in all 4 infiltration systems rather than just saying recommends that the storm drains, which is plural, be directed through a system? We'll say, how about instead of through a system, add maybe through a system for each
all
infiltration system?
All 4.
Yes.
Because they were talking about shipping some stuff into the sewer And they
Yeah.
might take it to mean that storm drains go to the sewer. And that was only a small portion.
That
I
was
guess
the
I'm-
floor drain.
But didn't-
Kathy, those were the floor drains.
Yeah, but didn't that
Yeah.
sound strange that we would be putting oil into the sewer?
They
Yeah.
did say that the
Okay.
proposed oil water separator, oil whatever, fuel separator that was going to be in the building was going to be directed right out to the sewer.
I don't
But if
think
they were supposedly, I guess if they were, Jim, I'll stop you. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to let John. John was waving.
Yeah.
To be added to our do not call list, please call 603-484-8156 and enter your 10-digit number. If you have any questions, you can contact my office at 603-285-4300 or visit pappas.house.gov. Thank you.
I have no idea what that was.
John?
I believe they answered their phone. I have something, Chuck. I don't think it, well, they're also going to be submitting some additional plans that may include another storm drain that might be directed through that system. So if we put it as just all four, it might be a better idea to have all of them just without a number.
Does anybody know if
Don't lose each. I think each is fine.
Chuck?
Or you could put the TCC strongly recommends that all, add the word all storm drains be directed through a system for infiltration that can separate.
How's that now, though? It says it be directed through a system for each filtration? No,
If you put
okay.
all in front of storm drains, the word all in front of storm drains.
Thank you, my little English teacher.
No, Helen said this.
Recommends
Thanks,
that
Kathy.
all storm drains be directed through a system
For infiltration.
for infiltration prior to,
And then take out the word systems after infiltration.
through
an infiltration. Oh yeah, through an infiltration system. Yeah, there you go.
Singular.
Right, that's right, singular.
You need an N after the A.
And the word
Right.
through an infiltration
And
system
that the,
I can separate out.
that can separate out cells before they go into any recharging of the groundwater. Does that do it?
I think
Except
it says
I think
that the
before-
all.
Oh, that the all. Yeah.
I'm sorry, where is
In
that?
the first sentence before the word all, get rid of the.
TCC strongly, you got it. Yep.
Recommends that all storm drains be directed through an infiltration system. Okay. We got it?
Should we add that the floor drain go through an oil separator?
That's what they said they were doing already in the plan, Jim. So theoretically, that anything that would go out to the sewer from inside the building would have gone through one of those.
Okay.
I got a question for John. Hey, John, do you know, can they actually pump from a drain system in the building into the sewer? I thought internal drain couldn't be connected to the sewer line.
Not only that, it might
I'm
very
not
well be uphill.
Yeah, there is sewer line all through here that is easily connected to. I think that's all under jurisdiction of the sewer department, and they've worked that out with them.
Okay,
I'm
Do
not.
do we know that they worked that out with them, John? Because everything I saw said to be determined on the list of all of the town bodies they needed to go to. I think it would be worth someone's while to let the sewer commissioners know that that was referenced in the plan.
So would you feel
I
better?
would be a
No,
good idea.
John, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea to specify that those are properly connected in some way to, I'm not sure whose jurisdiction that is and what process that is, or they did go through it, as Helen stated it. They just mentioned that they would.
How's that?
I would think the floor drains because, as opposed to internal drains, because they will have sewage.
How's that? Internal floor drains.
great.
Yeah, happy that now.
I
I
think
think
the
that's
sentence
it.
implies that we're sanctioning that it would be okay for them to go directly into the sewer line, and I don't know if that's okay.
I think it needs filtration before it goes into the sewer line.
But I think if
I
it goes
think,
into the sewer line directly, they're going to be skipping the filtration.
Exactly.
I think we should just comment that there was a reference that the internal drain was going to go directly into the sewer line, and we would recommend that the sewer commission is involved.
Yeah, empower the sewer commission.
Look at the keyboard.
Would it be the sewer commission or the sewer district? I believe the sewer district in Franklin is the one that makes the determination as to what can go in that sewer line.
I don't know, we have a board of sewer commissioners, so I don't know. It's in our town, so I don't know who
Yeah.
authorizes them tapping into the sewer line in the town of Tilton. Is it the sewer commissioners or is it some other entity?
Well, take a look at what I added and see if that meets with your approval or not.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
that
it
looks good, Chuck.
points out a concern. Yeah, it looks good.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to number 3.
The only thing I thought of with number 3 was that we might want to put a time uh, on that silt control removal of somewhere between 9 and 18 months or 9 and 12 months. That should be sufficient.
I'm going to disagree, Jim, only from one perspective and that is I remember those socks that would put down next to the parking lot at Salmon Run. And during that time, when Paul and I were down there, we had to do some overseeding. And depending upon the time of year in which this project is completed, you may not get any maturation whatsoever of any plantings or grasses during the winter months, certainly from late September through oftentimes early spring. And to put a cap of 9 to 12 months, I think would be inappropriate.
Well, then the other thought I had was there are some silt controls. They said silt fence, but depending upon what they use, some of it doesn't need to be removed. It becomes part of the landscape. I know that in some instances they're now using a hemp type product as a big absorbent sock, and in another one it's they use wood chips. So uh, I think we might want to throw in something about maybe according to best management practices then.
Maybe
Would that make
recommend, Jim,
sense?
that, excuse me, those socks be biodegradable.
Yeah, yeah, those would stay.
And for the record, it was too cold outside. I'm now in the kitchen and Jason is in the living room, which is adjacent. So he's a member of the public.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Jason. Anyway, so what do you want? I mean, we can nitpick every one of these, but if you want
Oh,
me to
I
at
would
the
just,
end, I'll be glad to add in according to best management practices. And if they are biodegradable and best management practices would indicate that they need not be removed, then I'm willing to certainly go along with that. I have no problem.
yeah, that's all I would think of is please remove the silt controls as recommended by best practices, or according to best practices. Thank you.
You've got two thes.
Yeah, well, I'll get rid of one. Don't worry. How's that? Anyone connected with this knows what that means.
Hope so.
If you're happy with that, we'll move on to number 4. And by the way,
Very happy.
contrary to, as I understand last evening, there may not be any direct access off of Morrison Avenue to a parking lot adjacent to that. So I've tried to adjust the first part of number 4 specifically to hopefully whatever. And I don't know if the parking lot is not going to be on that lower level where it was originally presented, whether or not that same stormwater subsurface system will be there or not. But it was a concern, and I had expressed it during our meeting, that if that were going to be there on the lower level, all they had was a spreader, I was concerned that the volume, especially in a higher impact storm, would allow a substantial amount of water to leave that subsystem system and could create ruts and on the way down over the hill. That's why I make sure that this was in there.
I like the way number 4 is worded. I think it's a good, precautionary statement and awareness statement.
Now, this is the one where there is not already the stone line ditch, but I think there should be one if they're going to have another system over in that area.
I concur, Chuck. Jim Cropsey.
So
No
Chuck, just clarify, last night's meeting, they talked about not having that parking lot, or?
I will defer to John.
Yes, at last night's parking lot, after a lot of input from the people who reside on Morrison Ave, they agreed that they would be redesigning and resubmitting to the zoning board a new plan that there would no longer be an exit onto Morrison Ave, and they would be redesigning it to include either a ramp or additional fill and changing of the wall configuration. So it's going to be completely redesigned.
Wow.
Okay, everyone happy with that?
Yep.
I think it still needs to be in there in case they use a ramp.
Yes.
And if by some chance they decide that there's no ramp and they're going to have to put a lot of fill in a big wall, retaining wall, they may very well have no infiltration system over there, in which case they may have to expand the next one. Okay, number 5, snow storage.
I think that's fine.
Sounds good.
Chuck, the only thing I was thinking of was to put something in there to extend fencing or guardrails so as to prevent the snow being covering the infiltration spreaders. I think that could be a real major problem if they plow snow into at least the one of them that I saw they could plow snow into. It's the
But
big one.
Jim, the spreaders are all downhill.
The one in the middle of the site, it's right adjacent to their snow storage area.
But that's not a spreader for the exiting of water. You're talking about the storm drains themselves, right?
No, this is the spreaders for the infiltration system.
But the
Jim, are you
spreaders
talking about?
aren't the spreaders the exiting of the water, and isn't this all being done subsurface?
No, it eventually has to come out. The overflow comes out on the surface. The spreader's on the surface.
On the surface of the paved area?
No, it's on the flat just before it gets to the slope. See, John's pulling it up.
I thought it drained off the back slope.
Yeah, it does. But if you take a look at that, the snow storage area, the spreader is right next to the snow storage area. John's got it up to the screen. Move your hand slightly to the left, John. Slightly
Jim, are
to
you
the left. There you go. You got it. Right in
Jim,
there.
Are you talking about the one off the back side of the very back side of the property where the snow storage and the stuff's to the right of it?
Yep.
Okay.
They can plow into that, and they can keep dumping the snow there, and it will. That was my concern at the meeting, was that they would block that.
Just that one, though, right?
Well, if they move anything else, it could, but that one in particular, yes.
Yeah, that one. I get what you're saying. That one was like the most visible.
I don't have that map up right now, so I'm not seeing that. But the other thing I wanted to just, the other thing I just wanted to point is, I'm not sure that that spreader is going to be inside where would be a railing, or if it's outside the railing, and if they're not going to be dumping snow over that.
Well, I think what they'll be using is a large loader, which will be able to lift the snow piles up and dump them over the edge.
Which is why I
And then they
believe
can
that
push
the
them
wording
back.
in there, John, was to prevent snow from either being pushed or dumped over onto the steep slope. I mean, I understand they're going to be using loaders because you're not going to be able to just push everything into one huge pile. But if you want, we can say, where would you wish to add it? And I will put it in because I want everyone to be happy.
I think a lot of this, Chuck, is going to depend on the dealership themselves supervising the snow removal contractor and directing him where he should be placing the snow.
Well,
Agreed,
according to our
Paul.
meeting, Tim said he would train the staff, but we need to make sure that everyone's happy here.
Maybe the thing to do is not even to add fencing or guardrail, but to just state that if the instance is not putting snow over the edge, the steep slope on the wetland, which would be, which side would that be? Oh, I think that's on the, well, southeast, John. It's in the back.
Jim, I think it would be, if we're gonna put something in there, I'd have it as a standalone sentence at the end.
Okay.
And say something to the effect of ensuring that those removing snow do not interfere with the intent of the
Spreaders.
spreaders
Yeah.
as part of the plan.
The word after with should be
Whatever, exiting waters, drainage, whatever. Where do you want me to make changes now, dear?
after with.
I don't know where you are.
I'm on the the last line where you are.
Yeah,
First word in the line is with. Second word
yeah.
is on, which makes no sense.
Take out the word on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Meet with
what it would be
everyone's,
like to live with two retired teachers.
Thanks,
A
Chuck.
comma.
I go with that.
okay, how about number 6?
This is one that I sort of changed a bit because both Hannah and the wetland scientist, Chris, kept talking about how this was just a garbage area. It was full of invasives. There was absolutely nothing there. And Helen brought up that it was a great place for birds. And
Yeah.
even Chris said, well, maybe small mammals. So I found the 2015 State of New Hampshire Fishing Game. Whoops.
No, you
Fishing
go ahead, keep talking, Kathy.
highest ranked habitats in the state. And of course, it follows the Winnipesaukee River. So I'd like a copy of this to accompany. They don't need to see this. I mean, it's,
I'm gonna pull up the map, just keep talking.
at any rate, my concern was since they kept talking about the invasives being just garbage and irrelevant and unnecessary, my concern was that they might, during construction, whack out some of it. So I just thought if there was a statement there that said, keep out of the wetland, well, they have to keep out of the wetlands, but don't do any.
Can everybody see that now?
Yeah.
Yes, I think including that makes a lot of sense, Kathy. Nice find.
I do too. That's great
And
find.
since the title of the map said 2015 highest ranked, whatever, and it shows right along the river here, that we thought that that would be the appropriate thing to do is to correctly label it and whatever.
And send it to all the bodies involved. So just so they don't get in there and say, well, this is irrelevant, we can run over this or we can destroy this. And Helen's
Yeah.
point too about being a buffer to the trail was something I never thought about, and that's critical.
I think as a courtesy, Kathy, you should include it.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea. It'll be benefit the wild versions of John's rabbit.
So is the wording in here acceptable to you folks? Because
Yes.
the only
Yes.
part that's not going to really be touched, which is really relevant, I think, is the part between the post office and this development. Okay, let's move on to, what is it? That was number 6, number 7.
Wait a minute, Chuck, one question before we move on. You had shared the independent review that was being done, some highlights from that the other night. And one of the things he recommended was that the edge of the wetlands be staked prior to the start of construction. Did that get brought up last night at the ZBA? Or?
No, but we can make sure that that is appropriate. I can add that in as, how about number 9? And we'll say to make sure that all wetlands have been properly staked by a registered wetland scientist prior to construction.
Yeah, that's a really good recommendation, Bob.
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
get
we
to
can
that.
add that in when we get down. Don't bother jumping down now, Chuck.
Okay, then we'll do that one in a minute. Okay, let's go on to number 7 then, if no one else has questions on number 6.
There's a T after wash on the third line, fourth word in.
Yeah,
It doesn't belong there.
well, I think it does.
You're wrong.
It's gone.
I put it in there just to see if anyone was actually reading it.
Your wife's watching you, Chuck.
Oh, she watches everything I do. By the way,
Hey, and
I'll
while
leave
she's,
it at
while she's correcting your T's, in the next sentence that says this needs to be done in a designated area where the tanks can be rinsed, we may want to add in there in the designated area where the tanks can be rinsed that will not adversely affect wetlands on the property.
Good point.
Yeah, I think that's a good addition.
adversely affect or impact.
You could say adversely affect and or impact.
Is it effect or affect?
A.
Affect, yeah.
See, I wouldn't have to have that question if I was dealing with the word impact.
I get it.
Wait a second, you can't say specific plans.
It is requested, or just
Yes,
requested.
it is not an R.
Or just specific plans.
Paul,
for,
I was right there with you, bud. Okay,
make plans singular instead of plural. Plans to plan.
then it
Thank
should
you.
be a plan.
Yep,
No, a
a
specific plan.
That's fine.
And specific won't be capitalized if you put A in front of it.
By the
I wish
way,
I had
This is
my
kind of
red
funny.
I want everyone to know that Kathy and I went through this for hours today. Hours.
Not very well.
You can't begin to compensate me for all the aggravation I was put through.
We share your anguish, Chuck.
Well, it's a good thing
I
you guys
feel
don't have
sorry for
television.
you, Kathy.
You need an S.
Yes.
Oh,
Instructions.
Jesus, here we go. Damn spell check, it corrects you when you don't want it.
There's no spell check that would write that.
I may have missed it. Did we ask for the table 3 chart that shows the volume pre and post based on a 100-year storm event?
No,
The chart, I don't think so. That would be in 1 anyway.
Yeah, I think it would be validating to see her chart since she only provided what DAS required according to her, which was the 2-year.
Well, one of the things that I did not do, and I know, Helen, you got into some of the volumes and some of those things, and I'm very grateful you did. But, one of the things I guess that kind of upset me a little bit was the fact that everything was based on a 2-year storm instead of all the rest of this stuff. And then when it was asked about the 100-year storm, well, we don't think our system could handle that. Well, not
Yeah.
only should it be able to handle it, but I didn't see specific data that would substantiate whatever she said, whether it was that it would or wouldn't accommodate a 100-year storm. But I'm trying to figure out why she would give us the data on a 100-year storm if, in fact, she knew darn well right from the beginning that the system, subsurface system that they were putting in would not accommodate a 100-year storm.
Right, and it was interesting that she provided a more robust table that showed the multi-year storm events in table 2, but did not show the table 3 volume table, which would be the one that would be sort of the hammer driving into the ground on drainage. And she only showed the volume for a 2-year storm event in table 3. Yes,
So
she
if you
showed the
mentioned,
surface water runoff comparison, which is not as relevant to the impact on those steep slope as the volume comparison.
so use that language, table 3 and the language that Helen has.
So Hannah indicated she could have provide a updated table 3 that shows surface water runoff volume comparison for a 100-year storm event for the points of interest pre and post. Tell me when I need to repeat something.
What do you think about number 10?
Hold on, I'm gonna turn my screen because oh, there we go. Service streams is redesigned to accommodate a 100-year storm event and provide sufficient data that demonstrates the volume comparisons for a 100-year storm event, pre and post.
You need the word "to" between the word redesigned and accommodate.
Volume,
Volume,
sounds more like
volume,
me.
Volume what?
the volume comparison pre and post for all points of interest.
The pre and post for,
Yeah, for
All
all points of interest, because they have 4 points of interest across these designs for the surface water runoff and for volume. And I do find it very interesting that she's got a 2, 10, 50, and 100 year for surface water runoff, but only showed the 2-year, and she chalked it up to DES only requires that.
Do you want the word "all" after 4?
Yeah, for all points of interest. And the
and I'm
second
going to put
sentence,
subsystems to be redesigned to
pre and
accommodate.
post for all points of interest. Because there are 4 points of interest.
And the 4th one is for the wetlands.
Right.
Which would be critical.
And they all release off the backside of the property down those steep slopes. They could become pile drivers onto that rail trail.
So are you happy right now with the wording on number 10?
Chuck, I'm always happy.
Oh, Helen, you're so easy.
That's what I've
Jason,
heard.
I hope you're not listening.
Now he's got the TV on. No, that's worded well. Thank you, Chuck.
Okay, now let's go back for a minute on number, I just want to make sure that we're all done on number 7.
Well, I wanted to throw in something on 9 before you scroll.
Well,
Oop,
let's finish number 7 just to be sure.
okay.
I think it reads well.
You don't need the comma after wash in the last sentence.
Well, I wasn't looking that detailed, but let the teacher tell us.
I'm on number 7. I'm looking for the last sentence.
Third sentence. Your
I'm looking for
cursor's
the
Last one
word
on the page.
wash.
Third line from the bottom. Well,
Right.
the bottom line. Bottom line. Got it.
There you
No,
No, no,
Leave
no, you
wash.
want the wash. Just take the comma out.
Are you
Thank you.
guys are you guys like 2 rooms apart or something?
of course.
Yes, we are. I'm in the kitchen. She's in the living room. Okay, how about number 8?
Jim said 9.
A 9, and I think it should say
No.
it is
Let's
requested, not if.
finish. Let's finish 8, then we'll go to
Okay.
9.
Well, I don't think the word hopefully should be there. I think you should be more assertive and say that the plan showed 2 different amounts being used. I think it should just say 2 amounts being used. That should be addressed.
Oh, I like that. And you get rid of the whole, well,
To be.
I
Or
will.
not to be.
I will.
question.
Is that the section on seeding?
Yeah.
Fertilizer.
Well,
Yes.
fertilizing, because it had different volumes.
That's yours, Paul. Remember the 300 and the 500?
No, that was mine, Chuck. I brought that up.
Oh,
I
200
was
funds being used and needs to be addressed.
I don't want credit for any of this.
Oh,
Okay, number 9.
Start out with it instead of if.
good point.
That's great.
Shouldn't it be the wetlands and buffer?
Good point.
Spell check.
No, the first wetlands, Chuck.
First, it is
Okay.
I can only do one at a time. Requested all wetlands, what, and buffer.
Did that be plural, Chuck, or singular?
I don't need to say 20 foot again, just to say associated buffer.
Buffer.
Yeah, go.
You want plural on that? Sure. Any other thing?
There was discussion of the trees that would remain on the backside. They said there would be no cutting on the trees. And there was also some other trees along the front, I believe they were going to preserve. So perhaps they should be marked so they don't accidentally get cut, sort of like Ice House Pond.
John, I'm trying to give due consideration to issues which are Conservation Commission. And I'm not sure that we brought the trees up necessarily at our meeting, and I'm not sure that's in our purview, but
I think maybe on the
John,
backside then.
Aren't those trees all in the buffer zone for the wetlands?
I believe so, but on the backside, they said that they wouldn't cut the trees that create like a barrier to the wildlife area.
all I'm thinking is we address the wildlife area up above, and I'm not so sure I think we need to make sure that we stick to what's our issue and not necessarily a wish list of things we want done.
Well, they did mention something about lighting, that they would leave the trees to prevent lighting being a problem for the neighbors.
Right.
So maybe
Oh.
that would be the way to bring the trees in, If
Well,
that's,
Well, I was more concerned on the back side of the property. There's some trees that sort of shield everything from, whether it be lighting or anything else, so that it creates the buffer, for the wildlife that's down that travels along the river. That they didn't go over the banking, start cutting into that tree line.
Well, you could put like a
But
number 11 in and say, we appreciate the builder or whatever, whatever the proper term. We appreciate the blah, blah, blah for
developer,
maintaining the developer for maintaining the tree line at the back part of the property to reinforce the wildlife corridor or something like that. You could end with something
thing
positive.
like that.
Good point. No, we appreciate, not
Yeah,
would.
we
appreciate.
we appreciate as we can, but we appreciated as stated at our courtesy meeting with the developer that they were going to maintain the wood line at the back portion of the property that is adjacent along the wildlife corridor to maintain a natural habitat or something like that.
Wait a second, something's wrong here.
What happened?
I'm
So
willing to amend that in any way you would like.
get rid of would greatly.
So you want just, we appreciate?
Yeah, we could put we appreciate as stated at yeah, as stated at our meeting that the developer
Nope, at our,
In our,
at our,
meeting at our meeting.
that, you keep wanting to use on.
What?
Delete.
Kathy, go take the keyboard away from him.
I want to, you have no idea.
You're gonna need a drink after this, Chuck.
That the developer, you can leave that in, you like that word, that the developer is going to maintain.
by the way, I just want everyone to appreciate that while I am taking direction from people online, that I'm also hearing echoes of something else behind me. And
Oh,
I'm not the greatest typist, but I think I'm doing okay under the circumstances.
that the
The developer, how
that the
about
developer will keep existing trees.
Get rid of that.
yeah, I
Yeah,
know,
and
and not,
How about just maintain existing trees?
Existing trees that.
yeah, maintain existing trees is good.
maintaining
That
instead
will
of keep,
the
you want the
developer will
word maintaining.
maintain
I can put in that in.
or
the
leave.
existing trees.
And not,
No.
Well, I don't know about the whole parking lot thing. Maintaining the existing trees that
well, not
will
being,
maintain
Well,
existing trees that provide.
Or maintain existing tree line?
There's a new word.
Shelter and a buffer for
No.
for the wildlife corridor.
What are
for the
those fowl
wildlife.
doing in there?
It's foul.
The fun part of the closing is we're like wildlife corridor, not wetlands.
We
Well,
seek to maintain a minimum of word.
isn't there
well,
something about the,
okay,
isn't there something about how much disturbed area there is? And if they're not going to be using this, then that's part of the undisturbed area. But if they go in there and start cutting, then it becomes a disturbed area.
so what do you want me to do, Jim? Do you want me to label this as, I mean, we've already addressed the undisturbed area for the wildlife back up in the wildlife corridor section. And on number
Let's put
6,
No, I'm just saying, I think that we qualify with that. We're just underscoring that, that they may, we don't have to write anything on it. I'm just thinking that the more they go in there and muck around, the more disturbed there is.
We appreciate, as stated at our meeting on April 20th, that the developer will maintain.
Right,
Get
right.
rid of ing. Get
I
rid of
believe,
ing.
I agree with you, Kathy, maintain.
Don't put in the as much as possible. That's too passive. Stop being so passive.
Don't be a wuss.
Yeah, get rid of as.
I think you can leave the ing off of maintain.
Yeah,
Too many cooks, Chuck.
No, not enough.
not enough.
give the man more ice.
How about the
Something to go with the ice.
How about the existing tree line?
I like that. I think I said that once.
You did, and everyone
did.
I know
ignored
you did, Paul. You and I are on the
No.
same page.
Nice.
Get rid of the second existing. You can't have two existing in the same sentence.
Yeah, but that's okay. We're talking about two different existing things.
Nah. Come up with
All right.
another word then.
How's that?
Tree line, remove as after tree line. Either do that or add so before
Get rid
as.
of as. Jim's
Yeah,
right.
just take as out. Who
How
needs
about-
as?
About
Point of
the,
interest 4 is already in wetland.
about maintaining
Not in
the
the tree.
tree line to protect the wildlife corridor.
To provide shelter and to protect the wildlife corridor.
There you
Yeah,
go.
the both to provide shelter.
Okay,
and
Kathy, you're gonna have to come in. I'm confused at this point. I've had 6 different people asking me or telling me what to do.
Boy, did she make that transfer quick.
To provide shelter and, oh, your machine is horrible. Never mind. Oh,
Jesus.
that's an awful machine.
Okay, we appreciate, as stated at our meeting on April 20th, the developer will maintain the existing tree line to provide shelter for the wildlife corridor. Now, what do you want?
And protection after shelter.
Provide shelter and protection for the wildlife corridor.
But they're already putting the point of
That's
interest
beautiful.
down number 4 down there in the buffer.
What was that, Ben?
Ben, I need you to repeat that, Beth.
Point 4 is already in the buffer. What you gonna put a station?
You may be the only one that's not drinking, Ben.
Say it
I
again.
want to know what the beaver's doing.
Beaver.
I'm
They're
sorry,
gonna be cutting trees and they'll put that thing in down there.
I forgot to turn my camera off. Hey, folks, are we all set, or
I think
do you
so.
need to review anything else?
I think
I
the
make a
only
motion
other,
we accept it as written.
Okay, there's been a motion by Helen to accept this document as printed. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Paul. Any further discussion or whatever?
We are going to
Seeing none.
send this to the zoning board.
Jim, there's a list at the top,
Right.
and I will add the zoning board.
Very good.
Planning board, select board, DOT, AOT at DES, land use office, And I will ask that Leanne please disseminate this to all members of the zoning board and planning board. When I put the planning board in here earlier, I don't have all of their email addresses, so I'll ask Leanne to distribute it forthwith right to both groups.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's do a quick roll call on this.
Wait a minute, Chuck. Kathy, did you have something else you wanted to add? It sounded like you wanted.
Under other and correspondence, I had one more thing.
Oh,
But not
okay.
with it. Thank you, Bob.
Are we talking about the agenda or are we talking about the, on this document?
Do the document first.
Okay, on the document, I'm gonna call the names in this order. Bob Hardy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Helen Hanks,
Yes.
John Scanlon,
Yes.
Paul Rushlow,
Amen.
Jim Cropsey,
Yes.
Ben Wadley,
Yes.
Jan Landry,
Yes.
Kathy Mitchell,
Yes.
and I'm abstaining from the vote. I don't need to vote, but it's unanimous that we will forward this to those parties. Now, what we need to do is to go back
Dave.
and under other. Who had something under other?
All I wanted to mention was that there was a standard dredge and fill permit filed at DES by Patricia DeFleece up at Lobster Connection to do something with 37 docks that are up there. Just saying.
Kathy, where is Lobster Connection?
Up
Yes.
by Mosquito Bridge, they
Yeah.
just bought the building on the left-hand side, that big brown building that's next to Daniels.
It used to be a place where they did ink
Oh, yeah.
right on the corner.
And
Right.
they have a place across the street that has been Lobster Connection, but there's a house and an outdoor eating area as well as some docks. And that's under review right now. I just got a notice about it.
Isn't there a residence in the back there, Kathy, also?
Yes,
Yeah, there's like some condos, isn't there? Or
I think
houses?
so.
Yeah. Yeah, there is.
Just for your information.
Do we have a copy of the wetlands?
No, it's just a standard dredge and fill. And it seems to
Are
be
we talking
mostly
just
docks and stuff.
the stuff? Okay.
Water things.
Anybody want to have any comment on that?
Yeah, don't we usually get a copy of a standard dredge and fill?
Guess not, because they weren't asking for us to comment or for us or expedited.
There's a surprising high number of docks back there. I find it interesting.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
they've
So we
they've
don't know what
literally
they're
existed
planning
there
to
for
do or
40 years.
anything with these docks.
What also was interesting is all it did on the website was to say this is the number, this is the person, the contact, and this is what they want. There was no the forms that go on for page after page. You didn't have that.
Mhm.
Is that part of
I
the new
wonder if this is part of their new application process that we don't see anything on it.
right?
So nothing
Yeah,
on materials or?
their current business is across the street or has been across the street, two places over from the general store there. But I'm not sure where those docks are located. They must be located, I would assume, over on the Tilton side rather than on the San Brenton side, which is kind of on the other side of the road.
Yeah, there, if you walk past where the Lobster Connection used to be and head toward the lake, there's a whole series of docks back there. There's probably like 20 boat slips back there.
Yeah, there's a small condo association there, about 4 residents, I believe. Then you have the private residents. There are docks in that area.
Yeah, for those two. So there's docks
Right.
for those residences, and then there's docks that she rents out behind all of that stuff.
Yep. Correct.
Well, no one has any comments?
Nothing to understand to comment on. I mean, it's not like we can understand whether she's going from 20 dock slips to 50.
I guess I'd make a motion that our secretary send a letter to DES asking why we no longer receive any sort of documentation on what's being proposed and no chance to offer comments on a dredge and fill application.
I'll second Bob's motion.
The question being, I guess, is are docks no longer a part of the dredge and fill? And if they're not, then that explains it.
I'll do some research. I'll get back to you, Bob.
Okay.
Yes, our young researcher.
In the meantime, I think it would be appropriate for Kathy to respond to something like, if we had more information about this, we might be able to respond, but otherwise we can't. I mean, just to get a notification is kind of, well, lousy.
Yeah, it's
Say something to the effect it's unclear whether this is an expanded use. Yeah, what you said, Chuck.
Yeah, I like that phrase.
Well, even if they've been using it, if they're gonna fix them, they gotta work on them. They gotta tell us.
Not necessarily.
Obviously not.
I know a lot of people that repair docks and never say a word to anyone.
Well,
Thank you,
she definitely
everybody.
wouldn't get away with it over there because there's that whole boat sales company is adjacent to it, so they'd be ratting her out in a second because she's getting money they're not getting.
I know that condo association, they would rat them out in a minute.
Well, I believe you. I think you're correct. Absolutely. Anything else?
I've only got 5% left on the phone, team.
Okay, well, listen, I think a motion to adjourn would be in order, and then we'll do a quick roll call vote just to make sure everything is whatever.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a
Seconded.
Everyone
second?
says yes.
Seconded by many. Bob Hardy,
what?
you want to
What are we
vote
voting on?
adjourn the
Motion to
meeting?
adjourn, Bob.
Yes.
Helen Hanks,
Yes.
John Scanlon,
Yes.
Paul Rushlow,
Let's end this gracefully. Yes.
Jim Cropsey,
Yes.
Ben Wadley,
Yes.
Jan Landry,
Yes.
Kathy Mitchell.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned. I am going to cancel this meeting out.
Thank
Thank
you,
you all
everyone.
thank you all very much. We're going to leave the meeting and I'm going to end the meeting. Bye-bye.
Good job, Chuck.